Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Our Vet live from the Earth Animal Studios. I'm Dr. Kris and I appreciate you guys tuning in. Happy birthday, Harry Belafonte. I think it was yesterday, 94. So I thought, thank you, Morgan. It's good to be back. I've been out 2 weeks, I think, so seems like a long time. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Marilyn. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hi, Dr. Ulrich. Thank you for checking in. Hi, Aunt Loretta. Thanks for watching. Aunt Loretta, I think, is watching with Jake the cat. So they're loyal listeners. So it's good to have them back. That's great. So how's everybody doing? I think today, again, seeing patients at the clinic. We're still curbside, obviously, with what's going on. But today, I have to tell you, was one of the really truly the first days that we were outside, and it seemed like spring is starting to come. Two reasons, right? One was that absolutely the weather seemed nice. The birds were singing in the morning. It was great. The other thing is I was itching my eyes all day and sneezing. So there's pollen out there starting for sure. So kind of a mixed bag, but I'm glad if we can put a lot of this snowy, cold weather behind us. That would be nice, right? Hi, Veronica. It's nice to see you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Kathy, good evening. How are you? Hey, Sue. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Joni. Thanks for watching from Michigan. Hi to Cromwell as well. That's great. How's the weather in Michigan? Are you upper or lower Michigan right now? Hi, Marianne. How's Georgia? Thanks for watching. Anyway, so I think, the topic today, March is here, right? So spring, if not now, very soon, we're starting to get glimpses of it. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about allergies, right? Seasonal allergies, we'll talk about some signs and treatment, some tips that I've gathered over the years in doing this year to year, both for myself and my pets, right? Because they are very similar to us. They react to the same pollens and things that we do. And it just seems like over my time, in the last 25 years, 20 years that I've been doing this, it seems like the seasons are getting worse and worse for some reason. I know we do have climate change. I know that our weather patterns are less predictable than they used to be. I think that a lot of the seasons are blending together, so we don't really have... Now, it's hard to say that we don't have these kind of cold, snowy winters, because we certainly came off a pretty snowy winter, right? But overall, the last several seasons have been really pretty mild, and that affects a lot of things, right? So we're going to get into that today. Let's see who else is checking in. Hey, Angel. Thank you. It's good to be back. Hey, Sylvie, watching from Bonfield, Ontario in Canada. That's cool. Thank you for tuning in. Cheryl's watching from Boca. I'm jealous about that. So spring is definitely sprung in Boca. We know that. Hey, Nora, happy March to you too. Hey, Samantha. Yep. We got, we're going to, obviously we're going to start getting back into the, we're going to be doing allergies. We are going to talk, obviously, we'll be talking in coming shows about parasite control and things like that, because we're getting into that as well, right? Barbara has a question before. Hey, Kathy, you're watching from the UK. That's very cool. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. That's great. So we got people watching from all over. That's wonderful. Anyway, so Barbara, we're gonna go through this. We're gonna talk. Scratching, dogs itch for a lot of different reasons, right? And so scratching is pretty non-specific, and so it's really kind of important that you get to the root of the problem, because it's not one size fits all, right? So you can't just say throw antihistamines at a scratching animal unless you kind of know the basis, right? And there's so many different natural things to try first, okay? So we'll talk as we go on. If you have other questions as we go, please, and hopefully I can answer some of this and talk about some anti-itch things that we do. But not all scratching is allergy related. Parasites can do it too, and there's other things that can do it. So we'll get into that, all right? And hopefully I answer the question. And obviously, repeat questions are always welcome, all right? So I thought first we'd start with we're going to have a repeat guest on today that some of you may remember from the past, okay? I think it was probably fall, maybe late summer. So we do have an in-studio guest with us today. And so this is a blend of my Earth Animal of the Week and my and a PSA for everybody out there, okay? So one of the things, I don't know if you guys are experiencing this too, but I will tell you, I live down near the shore in Connecticut, and every night when I'm coming home, obviously long days, we get home after dark, I'm smelling a lot of skunk smell, okay? A lot of skunk smell in the neighborhood. Open the door to let the dogs out in the backyard, smell the skunk smell, don't know if they're in your yard and things. So I thought we'd do the PSA. Just one of the things with the advent of spring, okay, one of the things that happens is a lot of animals that have been dormant over the winter a lot of wild animals start coming out and they're much more active. In the case of skunks, right now is their breeding season. So they are out in force. They are easily rattled. They're spraying a lot outside. So here, let's bring in our guest first. Yeah, come on, honey. Come here, baby. I got her. So anyway, this is Clover, okay? So I don't know if Clover's gotten a lot bigger than the last time we had Clover on the show. Clover was on our show, several months ago, and she was little, right, at the time, right? And she's much bigger, but I thought we'd have her on. She's a sweetheart, and I just want to thank Kristen from Jungle Jamboree for letting us bring her in and letting us, show her off today. She's a domesticated skunk. She's de-skunked, okay? She works in educational programs, okay? Oh, she is super sweet. I know, that's nice. Do you want to have a little treat, do you think, for everybody? Let me see. Come on, baby. Come here, boo. Here. Want some? Nope, too nervous? You won't eat it? It's on your nose right now. All right. Well, anyway, I thought it was important. I wanted to show Clover, and I wanted to, as cute as that face is, right? We don't want our dogs ending up on the back end of this, because obviously that is, for most of us pet owners, we've had that happen, and it is really, it's tough to deal with, both on the dogs and in the house. So, say bye, babe. All right, go ahead, honey. Thank you. Oh, hey, Mom and Dad, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, she's awesome. She really is awesome, super nice. But it is important, and the whole purpose of this is just to tell everybody, it's really important that you when you're going to let your dogs out, you have to, if you can't avoid the late nights and really early mornings, they're pretty active then. And don't be fooled by, I don't know if you saw her claws, okay? They are expert diggers, so don't be fooled and think, I have a fence around my yard. They're not running around my yard. They are, okay? They can get under things. They are really good at getting into places, and it doesn't take much to startle them before, they end up, spraying the dogs. Yes, Morgan, Clover was much better on the show than your cat, Susan, who was not good on the show, as we remember. But so anyway, when you let your dogs out, it's important to if you're going to let them out, obviously good to turn on your back lights, make some noise, make sure that even if you can go out with them or go out first, just look around, because it only takes a second, right? Yeah, okay, so Angel, right? We've all learned this. If they do get sprayed, okay, a lot of times the first instinct is, first of all, if you at all know before you let them in the house, okay, it's good to deal with it outside first, because once they run through the house, as the Hansen family can tell you, because we've had it happen, that it takes a long time to get that smell out. And there's all different things. You can simmer vinegar on the stove, but Trust me, it takes a long time. The other thing too is, you're right, Angel, it's good to wipe them down. Make sure you have to put gloves on and cover yourself as well, but wipe them down before you bathe them. And there's different anti-skunk baths. There's some things you can make up with peroxide and Dawn and some lemon juice, things like that. But the other point is, and what people do is, yeah, Nora, cats can get sprayed too. Absolutely, you're right. And it is tough. But one of the things that's important is that you have to also bathe them once or twice, and then try to avoid repeat baths over time, because repeat baths honestly just end up kicking up the smell. So once you do their initial baths, it's just the smell has to kind of wane off of them. Okay, so just a little PSA. Obviously, Clover's very cute, but I know the skunks are out there and they're really, really active right now. So just be careful. Yeah, it is, Sylvie. I think, you know, if you're a dog owner or a cat owner and you haven't, yep, Kathy, you don't have that problem in the UK. Well, good for you. You don't have to deal with that. So you just got to see the cute skunk, right? So, but anybody that has been able to avoid that, that's great. In my neck of the woods down by the beach, I think most of our friends, judging by the amount of late night phone calls I usually get, have had it happen, and it's tough. So anyway, just a little PSA. Oreo Pup. I won't repeat that, but people can read it. So that may be true. Anyway, let's start talking about allergies. Okay, so one of the things about there's obviously all different types of, you know, Marianne, you'd be surprised. You know, Marianne says that, you know, that she doesn't have to deal with skunks in Brooklyn and things. But I have to tell you, I've seen skunks in places, you know, obviously because of all the building we've done and encroached on wild lands, I've seen skunks in places that I wouldn't believe it. I've seen them in inner cities. I've seen them. So probably not as many as we have here, but I don't think that they're completely, you know, it's amazing where wildlife goes. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining. All right, so allergies, right? There are all sorts of different allergies, and one of the things we're going to focus on now is inhalant allergies, okay? The inhalant allergies and what they call atopy in dogs, atopic dermatitis, it's an inhalation of pollens that ends up causing skin problems, eye problems, all sorts of things. So we're going to go through each thing. We're going to talk about the most common. I think the first thing I wanted to cover today is, you know, one of the topics that people don't always realize is that there are different pollens in the air at significantly different pollens in the air at different times of the year. Okay, so usually in order, the way that the pollens go is in the early spring right now, very heavily trees, okay? Trees are starting to bud. They're starting to put out pollen. So trees are the first thing in the early spring, okay? As we move into the spring, into the summer, then we start dealing with grasses, okay? Usually simultaneously. That's why allergies build, and we're going to talk about that as well. When we get into the fall, then we deal with weeds, okay? So things like goldenrod, ragweed, heavy into August and September. And then finally, when we get through the winter, okay, we deal with mold and the indoor environmental, dust mites, mold spores, that sort of thing, okay? I think one of the big differences that I see in the 25 years that I've been doing this, and as far as climate change, and being in the Northeast, okay, growing up my entire life in the Northeast, where we are supposed to get 4 distinct seasons, right? And when I first started practicing in the 90s, you would see very distinct allergy animals. You knew every year certain animals would have allergies for a number of months and then usually not again. And one of the things that I'm finding as time goes on here, and we don't have those crisp seasons oftentimes that we used to. Things start to blend in. You look at, take for instance our fall. it was so mild all fall that the weed allergies that normally come hard and heavy at the end of August into September and then start to fade away, okay? Normally they by October, mid-October, late October, they're really gone. We had animals coming in all the way through December this year because it was so mild. And so that all this can affect how, whereas we used to see animals that were really distinctly seasonal, and it was one of the kind of rule outs as a veterinarian when I would look at an itchy or allergic animal, I would say, okay, well, how, this was the question. When does it start? When does it end? And you could usually kind of pinpoint it. That's a lot harder now. These things are really blending together. So some animals can have year-round allergies, and back several years ago, we would say, well, they're definitely food allergies. That's not the case anymore. So it makes it a little more difficult from a clinician standpoint to pinpoint what the allergies are. And we'll get into that a little later. Let's check in. Let's see. We got a lot of people checking in. This is great. We said hi. I said hi to Sarah. Beata, hello from Toronto. Hi, we've got several people from Canada watching. That's great. No skunks in Vegas, Regina? I don't know how many. Maybe Kristen can answer that. West Coast? Some, yeah? Yeah. If I don't know how close you are to the town proper or what, but I think there are out in the countryside. Martha and Justin the cat are watching. Thanks for checking in. In Boca, you have the bufo toads, right, and coyotes. We certainly, Cheryl, have a lot of coyotes out here as well. Happy Thursday, Candace. Thanks for checking in, Patricia. Oh, Teresa, thanks for watching. And you've been great with your commentary and everything else, and questions and information. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm glad everyone's checking in. Hey, Becky, watching from California. Thanks. That's. We have a few people on the West Coast, too. Right, so Regina, it's another good point, and thank you for making it. When I'm talking about seasonal allergies, right, obviously there's certain places in the country that do not have seasons, and that are much more kind of, static all year round. And certainly those areas, if an animal's allergic to something that's in the environment, that is a year-round allergy. So Stephanie has a point, people are home more, obviously, during COVID, and feeding the pets all sorts of new things, which again goes back to, I will say that there is one, like the rest of us, one of the things that I am noticing during COVID is that a lot of our pets are coming in and gaining weight, like most of the rest of us, including myself, right? It's been a tough year. For all of us, and so I think more people home, more feeling bad for the dogs and the cats, giving them more treats, giving them people food, which we never recommend, and then it opens up a whole Pandora's box, right, Stephanie? Because then trying to figure out what they're allergic to is tough. You have to be a little more rigid with them, right? Do allergies make dogs cough? From Maureen. So we're going to talk about that later, Maureen. But I will tell you, yes, they can. And I'll tell you, we'll talk about that in a bit. So Samantha has a question. Let's go to that, and then we'll move on a little bit. So how about a cat who's so itchy he has a scab on his chin? So interestingly, Samantha, a lot of times if a cat is itching at the chin or the face primarily, okay, a lot of times that's actually a food allergy. Believe it or not. Now, it can be other things. I mean, there's a host of other things. But if they do paw at their head, neck, face, a lot of time that is a food allergy. And you might want to consider changing the diet. And when you change a diet, obviously you mix it in, you change it slowly. But it may be worth going to your independent pet retailer or talking to your veterinarian and talking about maybe, you always want to switch the protein source and switch the ingredients. Okay, and then a food trial, remember, whenever we do a food trial, we're jumping our presentation, but it doesn't matter. Whenever you do a food trial and you change foods, it is literally 8 to 12 weeks before you know if it's working. It takes that long for the old allergens to get out of the system. So I think common problem is people give up too early. They do it for a couple of weeks. They say, oh, the cat or the dog's still itching. Forget it. It's not working. You have to stick to it. The other thing that's key about food allergies when you switch foods is that you want to make sure that they are eating only that food, because I have some people that will switch the diet but are still giving the old treats. So say your cat was on something with chicken in it, okay? And you switched to a different protein, but you still had chicken treats that you were giving. And chicken's just an example. It could be any sort of protein. Then you're defeating the purpose, because you literally have to change their diet, and you want to stick to that. So you always want to make sure if you get treats, they're associated with the food or same protein, so you're not giving anything different. Always key. Hey, Robin. Thanks for tuning in from North Carolina. I have air purifiers. Does that help pets too? Absolutely, Loretta. Good question. Having an air purifier in your house that has a good HEPA filter takes a lot of the airborne things out of the environment. Always a good thing to do. Can never hurt. Hey, Rosalie, thanks for tuning in. Northern Virginia, thank you. Oh, thanks, Beata. I think, you never know. You never know when that might happen. So keep checking. Hi, Heather. Are you taking a break from veterinary pharmacology, huh? Well, I could say that I'm jealous, but I'm not. I remember those days. So it's good to take a break. And always, Heather, thank you for tuning in. You've been a loyal watcher, so thanks. Let's see. Cheryl. You're originally from Long Island, right? And yeah, I mean, Long Island, Connecticut, kind of the Northeast, we do get a lot of pollens, a lot. Hey, John, thanks for tuning in. Hi, Michael. Yeah, Cheryl, I mean, literally, yeah. So that air purifier that you installed, and you said for COVID, obviously great for things, for viruses and airborne things, but it's also great for airborne allergens. So you're ahead of the game for sure. All right. So let's start talking signs. So we talked the seasonal allergies. We talked what are first. Trees are here. I can tell you they're here. It's already affecting me. So let's start to talk about some signs. In people, and the difference between people and animals is primarily in people, we get the respiratory signs. We get the itchy eyes. We get the runny nose. Okay? In animals, the primary signs that we see with atopic dermatitis, again, atopy, inhalant allergy, is skin related. Okay? And what is that? Well, first thing is itching, right? They'll itch all over. Primarily, oftentimes you'll see them itch their flanks on their body, okay? But they can itch their face. They itch all over. They can itch their ears, right? I see more things like ear infections at change of seasons this time of year in the fall. I had several today that I saw. So that's something that we definitely see more commonly, okay? And I think one of the people who have allergic animals, and one of the things that I think often people don't know, is one of the biggest signs of this atopic dermatitis and this is atopy and this allergies is the licking of the feet, all right? And so people don't always associate them chewing on their feet with allergies, but it is. And the reason why they do that is because they're outside, the pollen's in the air, it falls to the ground. Remember, I mean, they don't have socks and shoes on, right? So they're walking around with their feet, and that inhalant allergy becomes a topical allergy. Okay, and so then they get the contact allergy that then they start to lick. And anybody who's had an allergic dog knows they can really just go at those feet and go at those feet. I've had several myself, and it's something and it's pretty easy for a veterinarian, even if it's not mentioned when an animal comes in, to know that that animal has allergies, because you'll often see animals that will have that kind of brownish staining, right? That's saliva, believe it or not. So if you ever see animals that have that reddish staining, could be on front feet only, could be on one foot, could be on all feet, okay? And that is because they have porphyrin. They have a substance it's in tears, and that's why they'll stain with tears, and in their saliva that stains that brownish red. So it's pretty easy for, oftentimes I'll go out, or, now I have to go out to the parking lot, unfortunately. But a lot of times, when we're talking to people, and I'll say, dog's been pretty itchy, right? And they'll kind of say out of the blue, well, how do you know? And I said, well, I could tell you could tell right away, but when they walked in, because you can see the staining on their feet. And so that's a very common sign with this. Let's see who else is checking in. So Tricia has a question. What is the best shampoo for dogs with allergies? And, Tricia, again, so you always want to use a hypoallergenic shampoo, right? They use oatmeal-based shampoos. There are plenty good natural shampoos. You want one that's hypoallergenic. You want one that's hydrating, okay? You don't want to dry their skin out, okay? And then there's other shampoos that are like condition specific. Some animals get what they call seborrhea, right? So they get all this dry skin, and that there's anti-seborrheic shampoos for dogs. So you really match the signs, but in general, you want to use a hypoallergenic. Again, it doesn't have to be oatmeal based, but some of them are, and you want to make sure it's a hydrating shampoo, because we don't want to dry them out. Because as we're going to talk about a little later, I usually recommend people shampoo more during allergy seasons for their pets, because you can then kind of get the pollen that's settling on them off and calm their skin down from, oftentimes from the outside as well. All right. Beata, you said I give Benadryl for sneezing. Is that safe if nothing else seems to work? Antihistamines overall are safe, and it's certainly something that is used often in veterinary medicine. And Benadryl has a very high margin of safety, yes. And what we'll talk about in a little bit, Beata, is some other options that you might try and see if they work as well. So hopefully I can give you some tips. All right, Regina. I adopted a senior 13-year-old beagle recently. We took him in with yeasty skin infections, and it's taken months to get under control. He's still missing a lot of hair, and although not red any longer stinky, but he's still getting Cytopoint regularly, still working on his ears. We have him on kelp and enzymes and omegas, but always looking for what will help to get him off Cytopoint. Very good point. Regina, I'm going to answer that later, so we're going to talk about that. We'll get to that, okay? So Marianne also asks, my cat seems to get stuffy when the heat is on. He gets so stuffy and his little nose gets red. Yeah, and just dry heat dries everybody out, right? And they're no different than us. And you notice that a lot of times in the winter, I get really stuffy, especially at night when you're spending the most time in the house, right? And it does it to everybody. You can do cool steam humidifiers. That does help. You got to be careful, obviously, with hot steam with animals in the house. Cool steam humidifiers, and it's good for us, and it's good for them. So that might help. And sometimes, Marianne, too, if someone's in the bathroom taking a shower, you can bring the cat in so they can get steam as well. Not into the shower, but into the bathroom, okay? You probably shouldn't take the cat into the shower. That doesn't usually work out that well. But into the bathroom, because they can get the steam that way. That can help. All right, let's see. Kathy has a question. I have 4 Jack Russells, and they all suffer, apart from one, to different degrees with chewing on their feet, especially after walking wet, snowy or icy weather. Yeah, so Kathy, that might, the chewing on the feet during, that may be that obviously the snow or the ice that they lay down, or the ice melt may be bothering them. They may benefit from doing things, putting some of the different balms on the bottom of their feet when they're out in icy weather, or boots if they will tolerate them. I know animals that aren't used to those aren't always amenable to the booties. I get it, but that may be a different thing than allergies. Now, but if they, obviously they come in, if they stay wet, they can also bother them, and depending on how cold it is. Remember, they're walking around, again, they don't have, shoes on. They're walking around with just the pads of their feet. And a lot of dogs build up that over time, especially if they live in seasonal snowy areas, right? So yeah, and you guys, we're getting. I'm gonna go on a little bit because it'll answer a lot of these questions. I'll go back and go back and kind of answer any that I missed. Okay. So anyway, let's just go on with signs. So the licking the feet we covered, right? And that is a very common sign. The other thing is we do see, again, in that order, we do see the conjunctivitis is coming out, the itchy eyes, red eyes with a clear to colored discharge. A lot of these guys get that same thing where their eyes are itching, they get a little clear discharge, but then over time, when they have it kind of chronically through an allergy season, it can then flip to a bacterial conjunctivitis where they get colored, you start to get yellow, start to get green, and should always be seen at that point by the veterinarian, right? Rhinitis, runny nose. Again, the difference between a rhinitis with allergies and a rhinitis that is caused by a bacteria or a virus is that generally with allergies it's clear. Just like us, clear and runny, you will see that. These signs aren't as common. We probably see conjunctivitis more than we see rhinitis. Also coming with rhinitis can be some coughing. We do have animals that can get, as Angel might tell you, we have animals that will get this kind of allergic bronchitis, okay? Not that common in animals, not nearly as common as it is in people, but it is something that we do see, all right? All right, let's see. So let's talk about what happens with the advent of what we just discussed, right? Itching, licking feet, conjunctivitises, rhinitises. Let's talk about what then happens. We get what we call sequela, right? What happens with these guys if they're itching their body, they're chewing their feet, they're rubbing their eyes? Well, then we get secondary issues, okay? So now, a lot of people think, oh, it's allergy season, my dog gets a bacteria infection in their skin. Well, yes, but that's not the primary issue. The primary issue is that they broke their skin by itching, and opportunistic bacteria and yeast then got in the skin. They chewed their feet, left them wet, and yeast and bacteria then started to populate and get into open areas and then cause things like interdigital cysts, what they call pododermatitis, just infection in the nail beds. So there is a lot that kind of comes with this. And that's why when we start to talk about treatment and prevention, it's really important that we try to be proactive about this. This is always what I tell. And here I am talking about being proactive, and I have allergies every year, and I seem to forget until they happen again, right? So then all of a sudden I've got, you get, and they build. And the thing is, if you can calm them at the beginning, you have a much better chance of controlling them, because for the most part, one of the kind of takeaways is most allergies, again, we're talking inhalant allergies, not food allergies, okay? Because food allergies, if you're allergic to something, you don't eat it, you get better, okay? But most inhalant allergies are really controllable, not curable, okay? And I think that's really important to take away, but we want to be proactive about it. We want to start early. We want to recognize that every spring our collie starts to itch in March. Well, we start planning in February. Okay. All right. So what do we do about all these kind of how do we prevent our guys from minimizing secondary issues and helping them with these allergies? Okay. Let's talk treatment and prevention. Some tips for that. Okay. Again, being proactive, number one thing. We don't want the signs to get too bad before we act, because, and I just want to go back and who's talking about the beagle, Regina, right? So Regina, and what you're finding is when this becomes very chronic, okay, and this happened before you adopted, right? And we have several that are like this. When they become chronic, they could become harder to cure the secondary issues, because when you get things like chronic yeast infections, they can be really difficult to get out of the skin, okay? So I think being proactive is key here, all right? Always kind of remembering what when they, and even if you document it, even you put it on a calendar or you put a reminder for yourself, remember from the seasons past what your animals, when and kind of how they cropped up, okay? Because then it's worth taking, again, if you know that your Jack Russell is good, except in mid to late August, they start with some itching, they start chewing their feet, and then it gets really bad in September, they likely have a weed allergy, okay? And so I think it's really, it's important to start early, okay? So what are some other kind of natural things? Well, one of the things is you can do herbals, right? Allergy and skin, like Earth Animals Herbal, allergy and skin. Something these things are meant to kind of maintain healthy skin and soothe skin-related issues, okay? There's in the allergy and skin that Earth Animal has, all right? There's lavender, burdock, echinacea, chamomile, all things that are anti-inflammatory and soothing. So absolutely something like that can always help, because one of the things about histamine, okay, so that when you're itchy, when you have an itch, whether it's from an allergy or a bug bite or anything else, your body secretes histamine, which makes you itch, okay, both us and animals. And histamine climbs, okay? So if you can start by lowering that and calming that, and you won't have them get up to here. Maybe they get a little bit, but you never have them, launch into these frenzies of itching that we can see with our animals. And really, if you've ever had an allergic animal that has chewed their feet, you see how hard and the damage they can do really chewing at those feet. So if we can calm that histamine response down early, we can prevent it from getting, from snowballing and getting it out of control. So something like that can really help, okay? Back to, I don't know who had said it, my next point, I want to give them credit as well. Let's see. Kim, right, California, use pet wipes. That was my next point. Wiping your animal's feet with pet wipes, sensitive baby wipes, just to get the pollen off their feet after they come in from walks, certainly during allergy times and year-round, even if they're out in this. It's good to do in the winter because you can take any of the salts or the things that they spread down on the roads. It really can go a long way in helping. And what I usually recommend is wiping all 4 feet and then just drying it gently so you're not leaving any residue of anything on there. I think that's always a good thing to do, okay? Another thing with these guys, the more that we keep their skin healthy throughout the year, the better off we are for when they have, problems, when they, at times where they're stressed, right? So how do we do that? Well, they have said up to 30% of animals that have this allergic dermatitis, so this allergies, okay, benefit significantly from fatty acid supplementation, right? So something like the Daily Health Nuggets from Earth Animal, great vitamins and minerals, wonderful supplement. I always call it, treats with a purpose. Those are great things to substitute the treats that you're doing. Get what their daily amount is and give them to them. You will see a difference in their coat. Absolutely. I do with my dogs. And, it does go a long way as part of a program to helping have the skin healthier, which ultimately causes less outbreaks. Okay. So that's always a good thing. Someone else, I'm not sure who said it before about hypoallergenic shampoos, right? More frequent baths during allergy season with a hypoallergenic hydrating shampoo can also go a long way in hydrating, cooling their skin, getting the pollen that is settled. Because remember, when they're running around outside, they have this fur, pollen settling everywhere. So it will settle on them as well. And then it becomes from an inhalant to a topical. Okay, so what I do, like I said, what I recommend is more frequent baths, depending, it could be twice a month. Some of my animals, I will, if they have skin things, we'll put them on a hypoallergenic or medicated shampoo that while they have really bad outbreaks, we'll do a couple times a week. But in general, just increasing the frequency a couple times a month, just to give them a good wash with this, hydrate their skin, get the pollen off them, I think is a good plan during heavy times of, heavy pollen times. All right, before we go on, let's touch base. I know we have some other questions here. All right, let's see. Hi, doctor. My dog has damp heat and allergies to chicken, lamb, beef, and fish. He can only have rabbit, greens, fruits, supplements, etc. He gets hot spots and has been on Chinese herbs. I want to transition to your allergy and skin and immune support. How long will it take to transition, and what can I anticipate as any side effects? Well, I think, usually whenever I have people transition on anything, I usually will do it over the course of a couple to a few weeks, okay? I think the slower the better whenever you're introducing things, okay? And really, if they've been doing fine otherwise, side effects are usually minimal, okay? You can sometimes get some GI effects, but again, if you're doing it slowly, that's the key. So I think, again, just transferring over and erring on the side of caution with transferring on anything, going on to a new food, anything else is always the way to go. All right. Hi, Abby. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Sylvie, my dog Dexter is a black mouth cut, dealing with dermatitis, licking, chewing, and itching, was yeast, smelly, dealing with since September, and it got out of control. We also treated for mites as he was scratching his face. Baths twice a week for yeast. He is on a salmon diet. I purchased shampoo with chlorine. One may not have a... Okay. He was better now, itching the past week and flakes like dandruff. I gave Quercetin. You guys, I always love... You guys are so in the know, and I love talking to you guys because literally Quercetin's my next one on the list to talk about. So it's great to talk to such knowledgeable people about this stuff. Quercetin bee pollen, as well as turmeric and powdered raw goat's milk. We live in the country and burn wood. Could this be creating a suffering? Well, I mean, the answer is maybe not creating, but adding to it, yes. Okay. I think that, one of the, and so when people, people talk about yeast all the time, okay? And my dog has yeast, Well, the typical yeast that dogs get is Malassezia. It's a species of yeast, okay? And it's opportunistic. It's generally in small numbers on the skin of all of our animals. You get an insult or they're immunosuppressed or they have these allergies and it blows up. And it's interesting when you're doing this job for a long period of time, you start to recognize things like patterns of skin issues. You recognize smells. They're very distinct. And yeast has a very distinct smell. If you ever notice say your dog has allergies or your cat has allergies and they get skin infections, one of the things that yeast will do is they almost make areas of the skin look like elephant skin. Okay. Oftentimes they'll get red and very thickened and then over time kind of turn black. Okay. That's very, oftentimes very suspicious for yeast. They different necessarily a lot of times than bacteria. A lot of these guys are mixed, right? A lot of these guys have both. When we culture the skin on these animals, we'll oftentimes get resistant staph now. We get things like, we'll get staph, we'll get things like Pseudomonas, we get all sorts of different bacteria, but the predominant yeast we see is Malassezia, which is the same exact yeast that we see in most ear infections. Hey John, thanks for tuning in. Hope you're well, man. Diane. Hi, Kris. I stopped Ted's monthly meds for allergies. I was going to pick up in the spring. He licks, but not a lot. Yeah, and so Diane, truly, Teddy is a pretty strong example of seasonal allergies, right? So he does, a lot of these guys will stop for periods of time, and it's good that I mean, you're really in the know, and you're very intuitive with him. When his seasons are, right? So, and that's, like we said, it's really key in knowing when they're going to be coming, because it's always good to start a little bit early, so you don't come in after the fact and try to make headway backwards, right? You want to just start early. All right, Amanda, my golden got allergy tested. He's getting a lot better since I changed his food, but he's still itching his eyes. So am I. I assume it's the season's a little tearing too. Probably, again, Amanda, if it's just a little redness and it's just a little clear discharge, oftentimes that is. The one other point that I wanted to go back to, something that we're seeing and something that I always mention, that that I think Sylvia was referring to was that they treat for mites. The one thing that I am seeing in this area, and this has been a relatively recent development, and I can't speak a lot on this for all over the country, but I can definitely speak for our area, is we've had a tremendous increase in what they call sarcoptic mange in this area. Okay, sarcoptic mange, there's two types of mange mites that dogs, I mean there's more, but two main types. Okay, Demodex and Sarcoptes. Okay, two types. Used to be Demodex was very predominant. You saw it in a lot of the adopted puppies. You would see some you'd see some patchy hair loss. You do a little skin scrape, you find them, you treat. Sarcoptes was always a lot harder to find because they were deeper in the pores of the hair, and we didn't see it all that often. And we've had, in the recent years, we've had a blood test, an advent of a blood test that can pinpoint it, which has been great. But we've saw a huge uptake in it, and the reason is because we have so much wildlife in this area that are running through yards now. We have coyotes, and we have a lot of foxes. Okay, and foxes are pretty notorious for this. You can see them a lot of times. You'll see the foxes with big patches of hair hanging off of them. And they can run through yards, and they can run through the bushes and things. And then when your animals go outside and go through the same bushes, they call that fomite transmission, right? They can be on the bushes, they go on the dogs. So one of the things that we aren't assuming any longer at my practice is, even though these guys may have had seasonal allergies of the past, anybody that's really itchy that comes in now, it's a relatively cheap blood test. It's, I don't know, $50, $60. But we are testing these guys because we don't want to just assume and treat them for allergies, because if they do have the mite, you're going to want to treat that. And it's very treatable, but it is something we're seeing a lot of now. All right, Patricia. Hey, Patty. My cats are indoor only. Can I bring in allergens on my shoes and clothing that can bother them? Mishu has darker discharge from one eye. Yeah, I mean, Patty, you can. It's not in huge numbers. I don't think it's something you really have to worry about too much, especially if you get things like, if you can get some air purifiers and things for the house, if you notice some of your guys are having some issues. And sometimes if you do see a color change in discharge, it's probably good to have someone check it, just to be sure they don't have, bacterial conjunctivitis or something that we have to treat. All right. All right, so Tricia, you said you have a beagle with skin issues. We certainly see our fair share of beagles that have dermatitis and allergies, right? And salmon oil, right? And it seems to help. And so salmon oil, cold water fish oil, again, daily health nuggets, things that have the omegas, the fatty acids. A lot of times that can help. It really can. And it's good for their overall health anyway. It's good for their joints. It's good for their overall health. It does those omegas do help a lot of things. All right, Angel. Clear, runny, and never freaking stops. But as long as I keep him running and pushing out any mucus, we can stay clear of more than sneezing and get into the coughing. Right. And Hendrix has had allergies right from when you got him. And we've always kind of battled with those. But I think, again, working together, you and I, over time, we know when often they're worse. We know when they're starting, so we can start treatment before they get too bad. So I think you've done a really good job. And I think he is a prime example of a dog that once he gets really into it and his histamine gets way up and he's certainly tougher to get back to norm than if we start things early and kind of nip it in the bud, right? Thank you, Good Fish. I thought so. I think it's pressing. All right, let's see. Try olive leaf powder. It's wonderful for humans. All of this is certified organic. Hope that helps you. All right, well, I'll check it out. I'll do some reading on it and check it out. Thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it. All right, Sue, my dog will bite her nails. Is that the same thing as an allergy? It can be, Sue. Sometimes dogs bite their nails, you notice, if they get a little bit long. Some dogs do it habitually, but it certainly can be, because not only can they get infections between their toes, but they can also get infections in their nail beds. Okay, so you have to watch, and certainly if that happens, not a bad idea to have it checked, see if they can maybe trim the nails, make sure the nails are healthy, make sure that the nail beds are healthy. Okay. Marianne, yes, you can use natural baby wipes on Georgia's feet. That's fine. You know, without obviously natural, no dyes, no perfumes, anything like that. That's what I use with my dogs. So you absolutely can. So Marianne, Earth Animal does have they have a flea and tick shampoo, okay, that is very mild and very hydrating, and a good shampoo. It's in the Nature's Protection line. It is a good shampoo to use through the seasons. It does both, okay, and it's natural. It smells really good, so it'd be worth checking out. You're welcome, Leslie. Thank you. So Beata, so you said natural supplements are great, but how long does it take for them to work? Okay, my poodle is on vitamins, minerals, omegas, and still has issues. Is it getting worse with age? She's 10. They can get worse with age, and it's a very good point, right? And what I always say, you know, I'm a firm believer in integrative medicine, right? I've been lucky enough to, you know, be able to always, you know, have Dr. Bob around the corner, Dr. Goldstein, or a phone call away to discuss the natural aspects of it. You know, I've been learning more and more under him, and so he's been a great learning tool for me, okay? But certainly there are times when you have to use an integrative approach, and if you're doing all this and you're not seeing things, there are other things, and we're gonna get to those. I'm do a couple more questions, and then we'll go on with our list, okay, of things we can do. Hey, Barry, I hope all is well. Thanks for checking in. Gilda, hey, Gilda. I was checking quickly through the comments, but I just saw an ad by Purina that has a dry food that can reduce allergies. Is that a bunch of hooey? I don't want to say because I did not see that, Gilda, but I will look. That's interesting. I'd like to know what's in it. You know, one of the things we have to remember about dry foods is dry foods are extruded foods. They're cooked at high heat. And a lot of times with natural products, high heat is not their friends. That's why, you know, Earth Animal in their wisdom food uses that very, you know, gently air dried, low and slow approach because it'll make it stable at room temperature so you can feel it like a dry, but you're not burning off all the nutrients. So it's interesting when they talk about that. I'll have to look at it, and maybe I can comment on it next week. That's an interesting claim, and again, I'm not sure what the ingredient is. Again, it's a little bit hard to get things into a dry because of how high the heat is on it. It denatures a lot of that. So I'll have to take a look. All right. All right, Patty. Yeah, the air purifier should help with that, and yeah. We'll see Mishu whenever you need. Yeah, so Diane, here's the thing. So Diane's talking about she had read the article on the Seresto collar. And so what I will say, okay, is one of the things about traditional flea and tick meds, the leaders in the business, is they are obviously all chemical based. They're all derived from, most of them from neurotoxins that affect the parasites in that way. Okay, and so with that does come, can obviously come issues. All right, and I know that a lot of people balance the what do I do if I'm in a tick endemic area? And my whole thing that I always talk about is if you can do things naturally and they work, that would be the way to go. Okay. Now, the one thing is, obviously, we've had Ted on things in the past for the mites, right? That helped him. And, and going forward, Diane, is probably a good conversation to take offline, but it is something that I think everybody needs to balance, right? You need to balance where you live, what the risk is, how heavy, and again, like I always say, every animal is an individual, right? Every single animal. We already know that you can't use the common flea and tick products on animals, say with epilepsy, okay? You cannot use them on those animals. Animals that have other health issues certainly, always should, be on with serious health issues, should try natural things. But you have to also understand that there are areas we have to always walk that line, because there are areas where you have very high endemic tick populations that carry a lot of nasty diseases. Okay, and so one of the things that we are, we have the Nature's Protection line in Earth Animal, and it's an entire line. And one of the things that it is it's a program, right? And so it builds. So what we do is take multiple natural things and put them together to get a better desired effect. So we'll take it offline. Diana will talk about that. Anyway, definitely have, it's a good point to bring up for sure. Oh, you're welcome, Marianne. Oh, so Jack says Wisdom is flying out the door at Pet Depot in Timonium, Maryland. Great news. Yeah, it seems to be selling very well. It should be. It should sell well. It's a really remarkable food. There's going to be more on that later today, so stay tuned. We may have a bag to give away. I'm not sure, but I think so. So we'll talk about that later. All right, John Stratton. Hey, John. Could you put Neosporin on a dog or cat's dry nose, winter dryness? The answer to that is yes. You can also do things like put vitamin E. You can get a vitamin E capsule, and you can, poke a hole in it and just put some vitamin E on that as well once a day. Sometimes that, the thing you want to avoid is putting a bunch of, a lot of products, because obviously then they'll lick it off. Okay. But I do like, and Neosporin's fine, but I do like vitamin E, because again, it will get in a little better. It's not as thick. It doesn't have the petroleum base. All right. All right, Sarah, thanks for hanging out. I know I tend to kind of drone on. I think we've gone all to the hour, and I still have things to get through. So we'll, thanks for, I know you have things to do. Thanks for checking it out, Sarah. We'll talk soon. Marilyn, my dog coughs at times. Wondering how to determine if it is allergic bronchitis or something else. This is a situation, Marilyn, where I would always recommend having your veterinarian take a peek. Okay, listen to the chest. Sometimes an X-ray is needed, because you can see certain patterns, and certainly if it's something that's chronic or chronically intermittent, I think it's something you should probably have your vet take a look at, because they'll have a pretty good handle on that. Oh, okay, Gilda. So it was reduce the dander in the cat. Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't for the animals. All right. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for people checking that out for me. That's great. I have my own fact checkers on here. Beata, I will use natural flea and tick from now on. No more Bravecto. How do you rate natural sprays with essential oils? Do I have to use them every day or a couple times a week? Well, they're all different, okay? Beata, you should do me a favor. Go on to the Earth Animal, and they may put up a graphic for you to do that. But go on the Earth Animal, check out the Earth Animal Nature's Protection line, okay? Again, it's a program. So there's an internal, it's a powder or liquid you put in the food every day, okay? It has, things to help, get rid of or not let the fleas and ticks go on the animal, okay? Because they repel, okay? It's not a program that you're going to have an infestation you're going to clear. You want to use it early, again, like everything else. You want it so it will be able to repel the fleas and ticks, and then you couple it with something like the collar, the spot-ons. They also have a spray. It's a good program. I like the product, so check it out. I think it'd be worthwhile for you, okay? All right, guys, let me just get through a couple more things. I'm sorry we're kind of running over here, but oh my God, it's been just great. The questions have been wonderful. So we talked about quercetin, which is quercetin is a natural, it's a flavonoid from plants, okay? But it's a potent anti-inflammatory, and it can act as an antihistamine too. So that's a natural antihistamine that you can use. And then you can start to get, obviously you're doing this natural thing, you can add in things like antihistamines that someone talked about before. Benadryl, sometimes we'll use Zyrtec in animals. With mixed results, they don't always work. Here's the other thing that's really important too, to remember. GI health, as we talk about all the time, gut health in these guys is hugely important for the overall health of the animals. So if you have a healthy gut, and if the animals have a healthy gut, they're going to have a stronger immune system, which works on everything, including allergies. It makes their skin healthier. So again, always good to be on a high quality food. And you can, obviously, there are allergy tests that your animals, so it's Quercetin, Quercetin. You can, it's important, again, you can get allergy testing, okay? And the allergy, they do two types of allergy testing. They do serum allergy testing, which is a blood test, obviously much less invasive than the second one, which is skin allergy testing, okay? Endocrinologists, veterinary endocrinologists do oftentimes say the skin one is more accurate, but it's more invasive. Okay, I think that the serum one, which you can get at your veterinarian, can oftentimes really act as a guide. I think with foods, oftentimes it still takes food trials. Okay, yeah, Quercetin, Quercetin. So it's something that you can do, but at the basis of it, you want to have a food that doesn't have a lot of preservatives, that is a good quality basic food for your animals, okay? And certainly Wisdom falls in that. Wisdom is, I can't stress it enough, it's a wonderful, wonderful food. And also Clover is a proponent of the Wisdom food. So anyway, so I think that's also very important. And as always, everyone, obviously you want to consult your veterinarian for the kind of moderate to advanced stuff that starts when you feel like it's building. It's important to bring them to the veterinarian so you can work with your veterinarian in getting a program going, you know, that you stick to, that can really alleviate their signs. Okay, so that's really important. All right, guys. Really, really, really good show today. Thanks for just really knowledgeable. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everyone tuning in from different coasts and from England and from Canada. And I really do appreciate it. Thanks for spending time with me. All right. So as promised, we're going to do a quiz question. If you won the last one a few weeks ago, I'd like you to, if you can, just step out of this one, okay? But the quiz question today is for a 3-pound bag of Wisdom food, all right? And here it is. When we discussed the pollens, which pollen did I say is the first one to come in the spring? That's the question. Which pollen is the first one to show up in the spring? First one to get it, 3-pound. Thanks for tuning in, Michael. Thanks for tuning in, Becky. Thank you. You're welcome, Marianne. Thanks. Bless you, Veronica. Thanks. I think Sylvie got it. You can double check that if someone can double check that, but I think Sylvie on my feed, let me just see. I think Sylvie, I believe you are the winner. So someone will contact you here. So congratulations, you won a 3-pound bag of Wisdom. I think you're going to love it. And remember, the other thing about Wisdom is when we talk about Wisdom, I'll just show it here so you guys know how to recognize it when you go in. The one thing about Wisdom is you can use it as a primary food. You can use it as a trail mix when you're hiking. You can use it as a food topper. So it's got a lot of different applications. I think you'll really, honestly, I think it's revolutionary. Dr. Bob really outdid himself. It's just, the entire team in the development of this. It was years in the making, and they didn't release it until they got it perfect, and I think it's great. So definitely think about trying it. All right, cool. Sylvie got it. That's good. Thank you, everybody, again. Thank you to Kristen from Jungle Jamboree for letting me hang out with Clover. Another shout out to Aunt Loretta with Jake. I know we already did it, but she deserves 2 shout outs. Happy, and I can't leave without saying this, happy 18th birthday to my son Will tomorrow. I'm looking forward to celebrating with you this weekend. Basically, to me, means two things that you're 18. One is that you're a man, and two, I am old. So that's that. All right, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hopefully, better weather ahead here. I'm telling you, the birds are singing. I felt spring's coming. It's coming. We can get outside again. Hopefully, we can continue to work back towards our norm here, which it seems like we're doing. So, thanks, John, for tuning in, and thanks everyone for your input today. It was really, really good. I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye, everybody.